Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm just going to do a couple of introductions and then run through some very quick housekeeping with you all before we kick off. Today we have Martin Simon, who is our Bytes Microsoft licensing specialist. He'll be here kicking off the webinar, just discussing the licensing element to this particular technologies and talking about the Microsoft Cloud Agreement. We'll then pass over to Sajid Rafiq, who is our cloud solution specialist. He'll be delivering the majority of this webinar and just talking about Office 365, Microsoft 365, the differences and the benefits for you.
Hi, my name's Martin. I'm one of the Microsoft licensing specialists here at Bytes. We're just going to quickly run through what the Microsoft Cloud Agreement is, just in brief, just because we're having many questions around it, just because it gives a little bit more flexibility for online services in Azure going forward. So Microsoft Cloud Agreement is an agreement that a cloud solution provider, which is Bytes, a CSP as you may know of, can sell. All that's included in it is online services and Microsoft Azure. Benefits of it, obviously, as you can see, the monthly billing. You can also have annual billing if you would prefer, but obviously the monthly billing will give you the flexibility to decrease or increase month on month, which obviously helps with staged deployments, whereas obviously we know a lot of people can't just deploy 500 seats at any one time. What's also included is our onboarding service to the online the tenant. Obviously, so there is competitive pricing. We have our own portal that allows customers to provision licenses themselves, and as a minimum, there is only a one subscription minimum for online services, and Azure is nothing. You just pay for what you consume in the Azure platform. So that's kind of it from the Microsoft Cloud Agreement side. Obviously, there are other agreements available, so please, if you have any questions, please speak to your account manager here at Bytes, or there is tell me more at bytes.co.uk for any other questions. So I will pass over to Saj to go on to more of the technical side.
Thank you, Martin. Hopefully everyone can hear me. If not, just send a quick message in the IM message. However, if you can't hear me, I'm not sure if you would have heard that. So my name is Sajid Rafiq. I'm one of the cloud solution specialists here at Bytes. I work within the cloud solution team, and what we are an overlay for the account managers to use. So any customer that has a cloud project or wants to talk about cloud solutions, they can have access to us. So please speak to your account manager if you haven't already about who we are and what we can offer you. Okay, so today, this is a very, very high level of what is Office 365, what is EM+S, and an overview of Microsoft 365. At the end of the presentation, what I'm going to do is just talk to you a little bit about how you can access the CSS team, or the Cloud Solution Specialist team, to deliver workshops for you. Okay, and what those workshops include. Those workshops are free of charge, so do make the most of those. So, going to the next slide. I can't really talk about Office 365 and talk about Microsoft 365 and cloud if I didn't do the due diligence of where are we, how do we get there, and what's the reasons of us doing Office 365. So if we look at today's landscape, if we look at our personal lives, forget about work, our personal lives, we're very connected with our friends, our families, the way we send messages when we go on holiday to places like Goa, and we take a picture of us at a bar and we want to send that to all our friends. Okay, we can do that very simply. People could sort of know what our interests are with things like Pinterest and Facebook, etc., etc. So what I'm hearing a lot is, well, actually, if I can do that at home, why can't I do that at work? Surely our infrastructure should allow me to do that. And a lot of people still see the infrastructure as yesterday's landscape. You know, I don't want to be going into the office to be able to do work. And when I speak to CIOs, CTOs, IT managers, what they've sort of saying is the vision or the strategy for them is something like this. I want the ability for my employees to be productive. I don't care where they are. Okay, I don't care what device they're using or what time they're accessing it. They can have access to their work whenever they like and be productive and collaborate with people. And they don't have to be in the same space to collaborate with. Okay. But also, I just want to show this one single slide here, and hopefully this will be of some interest to you, is actually how the different generations actually interact and what the different generations use to interact with, what sort of media they require. And actually by 2021, 50% of your employees will be in the millennial or the Generation Z generation. So you need to sort of make sure that you have the tools for that generation to use. Okay, so you can see quite clearly there, one of the things that's coming back into fashion is in-person meeting, which I'm really pleased to hear. But the other thing that's very much the Generation Z is that conversational user interface, persistent chat. That's where they're sort of doing a lot of their work. So Microsoft decided, okay, great, this is great. We'll bring in a product that will allow our users to be very creative in sharing content, and be able to communicate with each other, coordinate meetings, and connect with people. Okay, that was the whole idea of Office 365, to make sure that the end user is very productive. Don't care where they are, don't care what devices they're using. They can connect, communicate, and collaborate anytime, anywhere, any device. That's the vision, and that's great. So when I talk to a lot of customers about Office 365, and I'm hoping that you'll probably be one of those people that think, actually, Office 365, isn't that just Office Pro Plus, Skype for Business, Exchange, and SharePoint? And a lot of times that will be the first workloads that you will go on board with. However, Office 365 is a lot bigger than that. Okay, Office 365 has a plethora of workloads with it. So you need to understand which workloads are right for your company, because you are not going to use all these workloads. So again, part of our workshops that we will be providing is looking at these workloads and looking at the company's strategy and saying which workloads fit in with your strategy. And that's quite important. So a lot of the time I hear a lot of customers saying, oh, we like Office 365, this is great. How do we use it? And I think, well, you've lost the point there. What it should be is, what is it you're trying to do as a company? What is your vision? And then how does Office 365 fit in with that vision? Okay. Of course, there are different plans. I think altogether there's something like 15 different Office 365 plans. That's why we have licensing experts like Martin and Office 365 specialists like myself to come in and to help you with which appropriate plan is available to the appropriate profile. So your workload, they may not all use one single plan. You as a company may use 2 or 3 different plans within that same company. Hopefully that all made sense. If not, just send a question in and I'll try to answer that better. So Office 365 is really there to say, actually, I want to be productive. I want to be able to communicate, collaborate, and to do this. And that's great. However, there's a problem with that. And the problem comes into play where you sort of say, well, actually, bear with me. I'm now allowing people to access my environment from home. I'm allowing to access my environment from devices that I have no control of. And we all know these are generic statistics. So I know that data breaches, 63% of data breaches involve weak, default, or stolen passwords. How do I combat that? And shadow IT is growing more and more. If you don't provide the tools for your employees to use to communicate and collaborate, they'll go out actually and use other third-party tools to do their communication collaborations. I was in a company a couple of weeks back, and their IT budget was almost doubled with shadow IT. They had departments buying their own SaaS applications and not going through the IT department. And so you need to control that. And of course, this is all happening when you've got only 0.6% in IT budget growths. So the real question is, actually, is it possible for me to protect my environment, my cloud environment? Can I protect my users, my devices, my apps, my data? Okay, and the answer simply is yes, there is. We want to make sure that there's conditional access. I want to know who you are when you come to my environment. Okay, I want to make sure that the device that you are using is secure enough, okay, to be allowed into my environment. For example, you may do a BYOD and you may say, actually, you can use your own iPhones. But if that iPhone is jailbroken or it's not on the latest iOS, then no, you can't come onto my environment because there may be issues around security on that. Okay. You may also say, well, actually, I recognize your device, I recognize you, but I don't recognize the location that you're accessing me from. Okay. So, for example, you may have your phone stolen, for example, or you may have lost your phone on the bus on the way into work. Someone else picks up that iPhone. Actually, you know what? Usernames and passwords are stored in automatically, so they automatically sign in. But I can say, well, actually, I don't recognize the location, so I'm going to do multi-factor authentication. So Microsoft then came out with a product called Enterprise Mobility Suite. That was the original name. They then realized actually it doesn't have the word security in it, so they renamed it Enterprise Mobility and Security, but still kept the same acronym, EM+S. Okay, and that does 4 real things. That does identity access management, we talked about, managing your endpoint devices, protecting the data, i.e. when the documents leave your environment. And think about it. If you're sort of allowing someone from home to access the work environment, well, actually, you know who they are, you know the device, and you know the location. Great. So you say, well, actually, you can take this data and you can download it onto your home PC. Well, come 3 months later, they decide to leave the organization. They've still got access to that data. How do you get rid of that data? Okay, from their home PC. So you need to put things into place to say, well, actually, you know what? We're going to protect the data, not so much yourself. So if you're no longer with the organization, that data is revoked from you. And underlying that is really Azure ID Premium, Microsoft Intune, information rights management, and ATA. Again, part of the workshops is we'll dive a lot deeper into those workloads individually. What you've got to realize also is there's 2 flavors of enterprise mobility and security. There's an E5 and an E3. Okay, again, we're not going to go through this into details into this webinar, so it's quite a short webinar, so there's no time to go through this. But again, part of the workshops is we'll go through what's the difference between a Azure Active Directory P1 and a P2. And I'll just point, looking at my marketing person, Cassie, are these slides going to be sent to the customer? So you will get a copy of these slides as well. So yes, I've been told. So Microsoft said, actually, we're now going to give you Office 365. This is a great product here, and actually, this is going to make you really productive. Great, anytime, anywhere. We'll now put a security layer around that, so enterprise mobility and security, and that's going to manage your endpoint devices, that's going to manage your conditional access, that's going to manage your data, so you've got no data loss prevention, all these sort of things. So great. But hang on, what's happening in 16 months' time, 18 months' time? Actually, Windows 7 goes into support. Okay, so a lot of companies are looking at Windows 10 or doing a Windows 10 upgrade or already have got Windows 10. And so doing an end user experience and looking at that, Microsoft says, actually, we'll give you Office 365, we'll do enterprise mobility and security, and we'll put Windows 10 Enterprise. We'll put those 3 pillars together, and we'll call it Microsoft 365. Now, we need to be careful here. So Microsoft 365 does come in different flavors. There's an enterprise edition, there's a business edition for less than 300 users. Sorry, I said 500 by mistake there. And there's an education edition. So for those that are schools, colleges, or universities, there is a Microsoft 365 version for you. But under the enterprise edition, there are, again, 3 different flavors. There's an F1 flavor, which is called F standing for frontline workers, an E3 and an E5. If we look at E3 and we look at that quite closely, we can sort of see the underlying technology that is being used. So Microsoft talks about chat-centric workspace. They're really talking about Teams there. Okay, you get your Skype, you get your Yammer, you get your Office Pro Plus, etc., etc. We talked about EMS. When we talk about Windows 10 Enterprise now we're getting things like Credential Guard, Device Guard, Azure ID Join, Cortana at Works. So you're getting the additional functionalities within E3. When you go to E5, you are getting things like the ATP within Windows 10 Enterprise E5. And if you are really looking at PBX integration and cloud voice, then you really are looking at an E5 SKU there. But again, we will come in and we'll talk to you about this. So, okay, so quite quickly, we've gone through those slides. We are going to sort of just talk about a little bit about the workshops here. What I've done on purpose is not go down into the agenda in big details. I'm not gone down in great details of what the workshops include. What we really want to do is a quick overview of these are the type of workshops that we do. These are actually free of charge for you. Actually, just contact your account manager, or if you don't know who your account manager is, just email tellmemore@bytes.co.uk. Okay, if you do that, what we can then do is you'll probably get a phone call from me, understand where you are in your landscape or in your strategy of implementation and deployment of Office 365. And once you've done that, we can then put an agenda together for you. Those workshops are usually about 2 to 3 hours. Okay, I'm just going to open it up to a quick Q&A. Is there any questions at the moment? Okay, so we've got a question based around licensing. Can licenses be added to an annual subscription? Because Martin's our licensing specialist, he's just popped out. I will get him to answer that and email everyone that the answer to that. Is there any other questions? Do you do workshops for all the Microsoft 365 products? Yes, we do. Sometimes it's hard to do the workshops around Intune in the sense that I don't have too many devices to do that, but we can definitely do those for you. So yeah, if there was a particular workload that you want us to go over, they're more than happy to spend a couple of hours just going across that workload. As you can imagine now, as I showed you on the previous slide, there are loads of workloads to go through. So even in a 2-hour session, we can't go through everything. Some customers probably have 2 or 3 workshops week apart, and we can just go through those section by section. But yes, if it was a particular workload, they're more than happy just to deep dive into that. Any other questions? Okay, if you have any more questions, please send them to tellmemore@bytes.co.uk. I kept this presentation very, very short. I know how busy people are, and at the end of the day, what I really want to do is just tell you the crux of it. Office 365, business productivity. EMS is the security around that. Windows 10 is more about the user end experience. Bundling that together, you've got Microsoft 365. But come and talk to us. Arrange a workshop, we'll come in, we'll talk about what your needs are, and we'll manage that workshop or tailor that workshop around your criteria. Brilliant. Let me pass you over to Cassie.
Thank you, Saj, and thank you, Martin, for your time on today's webinar. Yes, Saj just basically said it all. Just a reminder of the critique form at the end of the webinar will just pop up. If you could just fill that in, there's just a couple of questions there. Would really appreciate it. So I'll share around a copy of the recording and the slides for everybody, probably in the next 24 hours or so. So just once again, thank you everybody for joining us, and have a great day.